Your heart belongs to someone else.
The 1970s gave country music some of its most honest, dust-covered moments. But while everyone remembers Dolly, Willie, and Waylon, there was a whole other world happening just beneath the surface. Songs that hit #1, ruled the airwaves for a season, then disappeared almost without a trace. Today, we're bringing back 15 of those forgotten country one-hit wonders. Some will stop you cold, others will send you straight to the radio, looking for a station that still plays them. This is 1970s country like you haven't heard it in a long time. Number 15, The Year That. Clayton Delaney died by Tom T. Hall.
I remember the year that Clayton Delaney died.
There's a kind of sadness in this song that doesn't announce itself. It just settles in quietly, like an old memory you didn't know you still carried. Tom T. Hall was already known as a sharp-tongued storyteller by the time this track arrived in 1971. Journalists had started calling him the storyteller, and for good reason. His songs read more like short fiction than lyrics. Clayton Delaney was no different. The song tells the story of a boy looking up to the town drunk, a guitar picker named Clayton Delaney, who dies young and leaves behind nothing but music and memory. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't supposed to be. Hall drew from his own childhood in Olive Hill, Kentucky, where real men with real flaws played real music on front porches and asked for nothing in return.
Although I was a barefoot kid.
He recorded it at Columbia's Studio B in Nashville, a room with a warm, lived-in sound that suited the song's unhurried pace. The production is stripped back, almost conversational. Steel guitar hangs in the background like smoke from a back porch. Nothing competes with the story itself. Released in the summer of 1971, it hit #1 on the Billboard country charts. Critics praised it as one of the finest country compositions in years. Hall had other songs that charted, but none ever reached this particular emotional register. None felt quite this true. He kept writing, kept performing, and kept earning respect deep into his career. But when people talk about the moment Tom T. Hall found his voice, they always come back to this one, a song about a forgotten man, written by a man who made sure he wouldn't be forgotten himself. Number 14, The Happiest Girl in the Whole USA by Donna Fargo. It opens bright and fast and completely sure of itself. No slow build, no easing in. Just a voice arriving like someone who's been waiting all morning to tell you something good. Donna Fargo was a school teacher from Mount Airy, North Carolina, who had been playing small venues and recording demos for years, with almost nothing to show for it. She wrote songs on the side, kept teaching, kept performing on weekends, and kept believing in something that most people around her had quietly stopped expecting to happen. When it finally did happen, it happened all at once. She wrote The Happiest Girl in the Whole USA herself, which in 1972 was still a notable thing for a female artist to bring entirely to the table. The song is about waking up next to the person you love and feeling like the whole world is exactly the right size. It sounds simple because it is simple, and getting simple things exactly right is harder than it looks. She recorded it with producer Stan Silver at Woodland Sound Studios in Nashville. The arrangement is light on its feet, almost bouncy, driven by acoustic guitar and a rhythm section that never gets in the way of what she's doing with the melody. Fargo's voice sits somewhere between country sweetness and genuine pop confidence, and she uses both registers without ever losing the thread. The song hit #1 on the country charts in the summer of 1972 and crossed over to the Pop Top 10. She followed it quickly with Funny Face, which also charted well, and for about 18 months, she was one of the most played voices on American radio. She won the Country Music Association's Single of the Year award. She won Female Vocalist of the Year. She was everywhere. And then, almost as quickly as it had arrived, the momentum stalled. Later, singles found smaller audiences. Changing tastes and shifting label priorities pushed her toward the margins of a format that had celebrated her loudly and moved on quietly. Fargo kept recording and performing for decades, earning genuine affection from fans who remembered her peak years. but the industry's memory proved shorter than her talent deserved. Today, her name rarely appears in the conversations about early 70s country women, which is a gap that says more about how the industry treats its own history than it does about the songs themselves. The happiest girl in the whole. USA still sounds like exactly what it promised. All uncomplicated joy, delivered by someone who had earned the right to feel it. Number 13, Lord, Mr. Ford, by Jerry Reed.
I ain't a man to appoint a judge, very well.
By 1973, the gas crisis had turned everyday American life upside down. Lines stretched around blocks at filling stations. Prices jumped overnight. And in the middle of all of it, a Georgia guitar slinger named Jerry Reed wrote a song about it that made people laugh instead of scream. Lord, Mr. Ford was a novelty record in the best possible sense. A rolling, clever, tongue-in-cheek lament about Henry Ford's legacy, set against the backdrop of gas shortages and overpriced automobiles. Reed played it with that Lewis finger-picked style that made everything he touched feel effortless. He cut the track at RCA Studio B in Nashville, with Chet Atkins involved in the production, which meant the guitar work alone was worth the price of admission. Reed's playing is impeccable throughout, weaving around the lyric like it was having just as much fun as he was. The song topped the country charts and crossed over to mainstream radio, which surprised some and surprised nobody who actually heard it. It was simply too catchy to ignore.
For gas and oils and fluids and grease and wire.
Reed had already established himself as a session player and minor hitmaker, and he'd go on to have other moments, including major film work with Burt Reynolds later in the decade. But this one sits apart. It captured a specific cultural mood at a specific moment, and Reed delivered it with a grin and a guitar run that nobody else could have pulled off. The gas crisis passed, the song stayed. Number 12, Satin Sheets by Jeanne Pruett.
Satin sheets to high on.
The title sounds like a perfume commercial. The song is something far more complicated. Jeanne Pruett had spent years writing songs for other people and watching them chart while she stood quietly backstage. She wrote for Bobby Bare, Marty Robbins, and others, building a reputation as a craftsman without quite becoming a star herself. Then in 1973, she stepped up to the mic and recorded a song she'd written about a woman who has everything money can buy and nothing she actually needs. Satin sheets to lie on, satin pillow to cry on. The lyric is almost a contradiction. All that luxury wrapped around all that loneliness. Pruett sang it with a cool, measured delivery that kept the emotion just under the surface, which made it hit harder than if she'd let it all spill out. She recorded it at a Nashville studio session that moved quickly. The production leaned into classic Nashville sound conventions with strings and polished arrangements, but Pruett's voice cut through all of it, clear, precise, and unmistakably sincere. The song shot to number 1 on the Billboard country charts in the spring of 1973 and crossed over to the pop side as well. Overnight, Pruett went from songwriter to star.
I want you to set me free.
But the follow-ups never caught the same current. She continued recording through the decade with modest success, earning admiration within the industry and a loyal following, but nothing ever matched the commercial reach of this one song. Satin Sheets became both her calling card and her ceiling, which is a particular kind of irony for a woman who spent her whole career handing out hits to other people. Number 11, Watching Scotty Grow by Bobby Goldsboro.
There he sits with a pin and a yellow.
Bobby Goldsboro had already broken hearts once before, with the 1968 Weeper Honey, a song so sad it made grown men pull over to collect themselves. By 1971, he was back, but this time with something warmer, gentler, and almost impossibly sweet. Watching Scotty Grow was exactly what it sounds like. A father watching his young son discover the world, fireflies, mud, the pure, unfiltered wonder of being small and alive and unafraid of anything. Mac Davis wrote the song, and he gave it to Goldsboro at exactly the right moment in both their careers.
Well, you can have your TV and your nightclub.
Goldsboro recorded it in Nashville with a straightforward, unhurried arrangement, acoustic guitar, soft strings, and a vocal that didn't try to manipulate the emotion. He just let the words do the work, and the words were more than enough. The song crossed over, reached #1 on the pop charts, and stayed there for a week in early 1971. Country radio loved it. Pop radio loved it. Parents drove to the record store and bought it for reasons they didn't always explain. It was a different kind of country song. No heartbreak, no whiskey, no hard road behind you. Just a man watching his kid grow up and feeling the weight of how fast it all moves. Goldsboro never quite found that frequency again, but he didn't need to. Some songs say everything that needs saying and leave room for nothing else. Number 10, Country Sunshine by Dottie West.
I was raised on country sunshine.
Before she was headlining Vegas and recording duets with Kenny Rogers, Dottie West had a moment in 1973 that still sounds like a summer morning, with all the windows open. Country Sunshine started as a Coca-Cola jingle, which might sound like a reason to dismiss it. It isn't. West took that melody, expanded it, shaped it into something that felt less like advertising and more like a declaration of identity. She was singing about the country life not as nostalgia, but as a living, breathing thing she carried inside her. Her voice on this recording is warm and unguarded. She'd spent years in Nashville's shadow, watching other women get the spotlight while she took the session work in the background harmonies. When Country Sunshine landed, it felt like a long overdue moment of recognition.
Believe me, I wouldn't want you to.
The track reached #2 on the country charts and earned West a Grammy nomination for Best Female Country Vocal Performance, which she won. For a brief stretch of 1973, Country Sunshine was everywhere on country radio, and Dottie West was exactly where she deserved to be. She went on to have other successes, but the industry's memory is selective, and West's name rarely comes up first in conversations about that era. This song deserves better than the footnote it's been given. It's pure, it's bright, and it still feels like exactly what it promised. Number 9, Rednecks, White Sox, and Blue Ribbon Beer by Johnny Russell.
That I'd rather be than.
It doesn't apologize for anything, and that's exactly why it works. Johnny Russell had spent most of his career writing songs for other people, including Act Naturally, which the Beatles recorded in 1965, turning it into one of the most unlikely country to Fab Four pipelines in music history. When he finally stepped in front of a microphone himself in 1973 and recorded this track, he brought all of that accumulated confidence with him. The song is a portrait of bar culture in working-class America. No pretense, no irony, just a room full of people who know who they are and aren't particularly interested in explaining it to anyone. The title alone was a statement in 1973, and radio programmers who expected something softer were in for a surprise.
The jukebox is playing.
Russell's voice is big, round, and entirely at ease. He sounds like a man who's been in every room that song describes. The production, handled in Nashville, kept things loose and lived in. A shuffling rhythm, an easy groove, steel guitar threading through the whole thing like a thread holding a worn jacket together. It hit #1 on the country charts in early 1974 and became an anthem for a demographic that didn't often hear themselves celebrated on the radio. Russell had other charting singles, but nothing ever hit with quite this force or this kind of cultural recognition. Some songs become bigger than the person who made them, and for Johnny Russell, this was that song. Number 8, Before the Next Teardrop Falls by Freddy Fender. There's a rawness in Freddy Fender's voice that no amount of production can contain. It bleeds through everything he ever recorded. But on this 1975 track, it does something extraordinary. It makes heartbreak sound almost gentle. Fender had lived a life that earned that sound. Born Baldemar Huerta in San Benito, Texas, he spent years in the Texas Cantina circuit, cut some early records that went nowhere, and then served time in Angola State Penitentiary on a marijuana charge before returning to music in the mid-70s with almost nothing to lose. Before the Next Teardrop Falls was a song he recorded with producer Huey Moe at Sugar Hill Studios in Houston. The arrangement was built around Tex-Mex rhythms and lush strings, a combination that shouldn't have worked on country radio and somehow couldn't have worked better anywhere else. Fender drifts between English and Spanish in the bridge, which was nearly unheard of on mainstream country stations in 1975. The song reached #1 on both the country and pop charts simultaneously, one of the few records to manage that crossover in that era. For a man who'd spent years being told he was too regional, too rough, too complicated for mainstream success, it was a statement as much as a hit. Follow-ups came and had moments, but the momentum didn't last. Fender remained a beloved figure in Texas music for the rest of his life, respected and celebrated in his own community. But for one season in 1975, his voice was on every radio in America, and every word of it was earned. Number 7, another Somebody Done, Somebody Wrong, song by B.J. Thomas.
Just got right for a brand new.
The title alone does something. It winks at the listener. It says, yes, we've all heard this kind of song before. And here it is again. And you're gonna love it anyway. Bon, J. Thomas was primarily known as a pop singer, the man who gave the world Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. But in the spring of 1975, he walked into a Nashville studio and recorded a song that blurred the line between pop and country so smoothly that both formats embraced it without a single argument. Chip Taylor and Mark James wrote it, and the hook is one of those effortless, inevitable things that sounds like it must have already existed before anyone sat down to write it. Thomas's vocal is warm and slightly weary, exactly the right temperature for a song about a breakup that everyone in the room has already been through.
I'd done somebody wrong.
The production leaned heavily into Nashville's sound conventions with lush strings and a crisp, polished rhythm section. It was tailor-made for the middle of the road, and it stayed there comfortably while reaching #1 on both pop and country charts. Thomas continued recording for decades, finding his audience in Christian music for much of the 80s and 90s. But this song belongs to 1975, to that specific moment when country radio was wide open and a smooth pop voice could walk right in and take the top spot without anyone objecting. It still sounds like a hit the moment it starts, which is about the best thing you can say about a song 40 years after the fact. Number 6, I'm Not Lisa by Jessi Colter.
I'm not Lisa.
It opens with just a piano and a voice, and for the first several seconds, that's all there is. No drums, no band, no build-up. Just Jessi Colter, bare and unhurried, singing about being the wrong woman for the right man.
My eyes are not.
Colter had been part of Nashville's outlaw scene before that phrase had a name. Married to Waylon Jennings, connected to the Tom Paul Glaser circle, she moved through country music's counterculture with a quiet authority that her solo recordings didn't always capture, until this one. She wrote, I'm not Lisa herself, drawing from a relationship she'd observed rather than lived. The woman in the song is gentle about it. She's not angry, not bitter. She simply understands that the man she loves is still looking for someone who left before she arrived. That emotional clarity is what makes the song devastating. She recorded it at Glaser Sound Studios in Nashville during sessions that were reportedly relaxed and unhurried, which shows in every second of the final take. The arrangement builds slowly, adding acoustic guitar and soft harmonics, but it never crowds out that voice. Colter sings like someone telling you a secret in a quiet room. Released in 1975, it hit #1 on the country charts and crossed over to the pop top 5. For a brief, shining period, it seemed like Jessi Colter was about to become one of the defining voices of her generation. But the music industry moved quickly in the mid-70s, and solo follow-ups struggled to find the same footing. She remained an important figure in the outlaw movement, appeared on landmark recordings, and continued performing on her own terms for decades. But I'm not. Lisa stands apart from everything else in her catalog. A perfect song, delivered perfectly once. Some artists only need once. Number 5, Heaven's Just a Sin. Away by the Kendalls. There's something almost uncomfortable about how good this song is, given how completely it's been forgotten. The Kendalls were a father and daughter duo from St. Louis. Royce Kendall had spent years playing in regional bands and bar circuits with his daughter Jeanne, who had grown up harmonizing beside him since she was old enough to hold a microphone. They were a family act in the most literal sense. Not a manufactured one, not a label concept. It's just a father and his daughter who happened to sound extraordinary together.
I belong to him.
Jerry Gillespie wrote, "Heaven's just a sin away." And on paper, it shouldn't have worked the way it did. A song about temptation and guilt, about standing at the edge of something you know you shouldn't want and wanting it anyway. In the wrong hands, it could have felt preachy or overwrought. In the hands of the Kendalls, it felt completely, devastatingly human. They recorded it in Nashville in 1977, with a production that understood exactly what the song needed. Spare and unhurried, with just enough steel guitar to anchor it to the earth. The arrangement never swells beyond what the voices require. And those voices are the thing. Royce's warm baritone and Jeanne's high, clear harmony don't just blend. They ache together in a way that a studio can't manufacture, no matter how many takes you run. The song shot to #1 on the country charts and stayed there. Then the Country Music Association handed them Single of the Year for 1977, which placed them in a room with Waylon and Willie and Dolly and every other name that still gets mentioned when people talk about that era. For one night, they belonged entirely to that conversation. And then the industry moved on with the speed it always reserves for acts it never fully understood in the first place. Follow-up singles charted modestly. The momentum of that award season didn't translate into the sustained career it should have built. They kept recording together into the 1980s, kept touring smaller venues, kept doing the work with the same quiet commitment they'd always brought to it. What the Kendalls had was something that can't be coached or produced or replicated. It was the specific, unrepeatable chemistry of two people who had known each other their entire lives, standing next to each other in front of a microphone and telling the truth. Heaven's just a sin. Away caught that on tape once, perfectly, and left everything else to catch up. Number 4, Blanket on the Ground by Billie Jo Spears.
Big old moon is shining down.
Few songs in 70s country captured the quiet revolution happening in how women were writing and singing about love. This one did it without announcing itself. Billie Jo Spears had been recording for years, with modest success before she landed on this 1975 track, a song about a married woman asking her husband to remember the romance they used to have, not in a desperate way. More like a reminder, a hand on the arm that says, "Hey, remember us?"
First found us.
Roger Bowling wrote it, and it was the kind of lyric that walked the line between traditional and quietly progressive. The woman in the song isn't passive. She's the one doing the asking, the one setting the scene, the one pulling her husband away from routine and back toward feeling. Spears recorded it in Nashville with a production style that suited her voice perfectly. Warm, slightly husky, lived in. She didn't oversell a single note. The arrangement stayed country, no crossover aspirations, just steel guitar and rhythm and a vocal that felt like it was aimed at the specific person sitting in the front seat of a pickup truck on a Wednesday afternoon. In the UK, Blanket on the Ground became one of the biggest country hits of the decade, a phenomenon that American radio success never quite matched in scale. It reached the top 10 in the US country charts and gave Spears her defining moment. She continued recording through the late 70s and 80s, and her name still carries real respect among fans of traditional country. But in the years since, she's faded from the conversations that should include her. Blanket on the Ground deserves to be in those conversations. Warm, sensible, and effortlessly real. Number 3, The Night the Lights went out in Georgia by Vicki Lawrence.
He was on his way home from Candletop.
In 1973, a 23-year-old actress and variety show regular walked into a recording studio and cut a song that became one of the darkest #1 hits in country crossover history. Vicki Lawrence was best known as Carol Burnett's protege on The Carol Burnett Show. She was not, by any reasonable definition, a country music star. But Bobby Russell, who wrote the song and happened to be her husband at the time, gave her something extraordinary to sing, and she delivered it without flinching. The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia is a murder ballad wrapped in a Southern Gothic short story, a woman narrating the execution of her innocent brother, while quietly revealing herself to be the actual killer in the final lines. It was cinematic, ruthless, and genuinely unsettling in the way the best Southern storytelling has always been. Lawrence recorded it at a Nashville session with an arrangement that built slowly toward its twist ending. The production understood that the song's power lived in its pacing. Rush it, and you lose everything. Lawrence's voice stayed controlled throughout. which is exactly what the story required. She sounded like a woman who knew exactly what she'd done and wasn't losing sleep over it. The song hit #1 on the pop charts and crossed onto country radio without breaking a sweat. It was everywhere in 1973, playing in kitchens and cars and late-night radio slots that usually reserved that hour for Merle Haggard.
Your young bride ain't home.
Lawrence never had another hit. She returned to television and remained a beloved figure in that world for decades. But this song, this specific 3-minute story, had nothing to do with celebrity or variety shows. It was simply a great piece of writing delivered by someone who rose to meet it completely. And it still holds up as one of the most compellingly strange #1s of its entire decade. Number 2, Lizzie and the Rain Man by Tanya Tucker.
Riding in on the sunrise on a highway.
Most people remember Tanya Tucker as the girl who recorded Delta Dawn at 13, with a voice that had no business belonging to a teenager. By 1975, she was 19 and about to have the biggest crossover moment of her early career with a song almost nobody talks about anymore. Lizzie and the Rain Man was written by Kenny Odell and Larry Henley. A desperate town, a drought, a mysterious stranger, and a young woman caught between belief and doubt. Cinematic before anyone was calling country songs cinematic. She recorded it in Los Angeles, not Nashville, which signaled something different from the start. The production carried more polish and weight than her earlier work, with a rhythm section that pushed forward and strings that arrived exactly when the story needed them. Tucker sang it with an authority that had no right coming from a teenager. Controlled, confident, like she already knew where everything was headed and wasn't in any hurry.
Back non-believers, all the rain.
It hit #1 on the country charts and crossed into the pop top 30. Radio stations that didn't normally touch Nashville were spinning it. Then the momentum faded, Tucker moved on, and the song got quietly left behind. It deserves better than that. Number 1, Convoy by C.W. McCall. It wasn't just a song. For about 6 months in 1975 and 1976, it was a cultural event. C.W. McCall was the stage name of Bill Fries, an advertising man from Omaha, Nebraska, who had originally created the character for a Met's bread commercial campaign. The trucker with the laid-back drawl and the CB radio lingo was, at its origin, a way to sell bread in the Midwest. Nobody involved in that campaign could have predicted where it was going. Fries and his collaborator, Chip Davis, who would later found Mannheim Steamroller, developed the character into a series of country novelty records. They built an audience slowly and deliberately, one regional radio station at a time. By the time Convoy arrived in late 1975, the CB radio craze was already sweeping the country, and the song landed right in the center of it, like a match in a dry field. They recorded it in Omaha, not Nashville, which was itself a kind of statement. The production was dense with sound effects, CB chatter, truck engine noise, and a rolling driving rhythm that made the whole thing feel like you were actually in the cab of an 18-wheeler at 2 in the morning on an empty interstate. Fries narrated it in that slow, almost comedic CB drawl, building a story about a convoy of truckers defying authorities from Shaky Town to the Jersey Shore. The song hit #1 on both the country and pop charts simultaneously. It sold over 1 million copies in a matter of weeks. It inspired a 1978 film directed by Sam Peckinpah. It became a punchline, a phenomenon, and an artifact of 1970s American culture all at the same time. C.W. McCall had other charting singles, but nothing that touched this. Fries eventually became the mayor of Ouray, Colorado, a small mountain town where he lived quietly for decades, seemingly at peace with having made one perfect piece of American pop mythology and then stepping away. Convoy is ridiculous and brilliant. It knows exactly what it is. In a decade full of earnest soul-searching, it arrived with a horn honk and a dare, and every single person in America knew every single word of it by February of 1976. Some songs are bigger than music. This was one of them. That's 15 Forgotten Country One. Hit wonders from the 1970s. Songs that ruled the airwaves, captured specific moments of American life, and then slowly drifted away from the playlists and the conversations that should have kept them alive. Some of these artists had careers that went deeper than this one song. Others walked up to the microphone, did something extraordinary, and quietly went back to wherever they came from. Either way, the songs are still there. Still exactly what they were when someone first pressed record in a Nashville studio, or a converted barn in Michigan, or a modest session room in Houston. All it takes is one listen, and it all comes back. Which one are you playing first? Tell us in the comments. And if there's a forgotten 70s country gem we missed, we want to hear that too. Thanks for watching. Keep the music alive.